Early on Sunday morning, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene goes to the tomb. And you know what? I think a lot of us know what that kind of dark is. Not just early dark, but the kind where something has shifted. And you can feel it. It's the space where the things we relied on have failed us. And we aren't quite sure what's going to come next. And I want to talk about that kind of darkness. Hi, I'm Howard, pastor of the Roseville New Church, and welcome to Spiritual Shorts. You know, as I prepared for this reflection, I found myself remembering a pre-dawn moment in my own life. One of those nights where the old version of me just couldn't carry me forward anymore. Some of you know that I haven't always been in ministry. After university, I embarked on a career in risk management before I heard the call to ministry. So in my 40s, I left that world to pursue a master's in divinity. And in my first year, a professor was so deeply critical of my writing that I went home wondering if I had made the biggest mistake of my life. That night, sitting in the dark, I had a realization. Whatever had worked for me up to that point was not going to serve me going forward. The armor of my old career, the logic, the risk assessments, the way I communicated wasn't enough for where I was being called. Not that those things were evil in themselves, but they couldn't be my life anymore. And in a very real sense, something had to die so that something new could be born. When Peter and the other disciple run to the tomb in John's Gospel, they find something that mirrors this perfectly. They didn't find a body, they found linen. You know, the text says the linen wrappings were lying there, and the cloth that had covered the Lord's head was folded up and lying apart. You know, it's a quiet, orderly detail, but that detail matters. Nothing is frantic in this story. Nothing is stolen in the night. Even in victory over death, there is this calm authority, a sense that God is not improvising. And in our spiritual lives, those linens can look like all the layers that we wrap around our own hearts. Habits, roles, professional identity, and self-protections. They can be useful until we start confusing them with who we truly are. You know, here's the subtle truth. When the Lord rises, he doesn't carry those bindings with him. And that's where we see a contrast with the story of Lazarus. Lazarus came out still wrapped, still needing to be unbound. But the Lord leaves the grave cloths behind. You see, resurrection is not a return to your old life. It is the birth of a new one. Paul puts it nicely in his letter to the Colossians. Your real life is hidden with Christ in God. You know, that night of my crisis, my real life was hidden under fear. A fear of failure, maybe a fear of embarrassment, or a fear that I just didn't belong. I, of course, didn't change overnight, but something opened. I realized that if I wanted to follow this calling, I had to leave my old grave cloths, my old ways of thinking and protecting myself in the tomb. And you know what? The very next morning, before I could even say a word, that same professor found me and said, I feel I may have spoken too harshly. Let's get you some help with your writing. The stone rolled away, not because I became perfect, but because I became willing to be made new. Easter is the Lord's way of showing us we don't have to be defined by our past wrappings. As Peter says in Acts, the Lord went around doing good. That's the hallmark of resurrected life. It's not about winning the argument or being the expert. It's about an internal shift towards love and the outward practice of it, one honest act at a time. So today I invite you to look gently at your own life. What linen are you still clutching like a security blanket that no longer serves your journey? What version of yourself are you trying to resuscitate when the Lord is trying to resurrect you into something entirely different? This is the day that the Lord has made. Don't be afraid to leave the old wrappings in the dark. The light is breaking, and your real life, your hidden, beautiful spiritual life is ready to begin. And then, quietly, steadily, go out there and do good. Because that's what the resurrected life looks like. God bless you, and thank you for joining me for this episode of Spiritual Shorts. He is not here. He is risen.